Introduction to Information Security. Objective. This introduction is aimed at imparting a basic understanding of what information security is all about, and covers a broad spectrum of topics in the information security arena. Outcome. At the end of this chapter, you will have a clear understanding of concepts related to information security. Introduction. Information security. Leaving the second word alone for now, first we need to ask what information is. Information is nothing but processed data. Sounds too technical? What is data then? Data is simply a collection of facts or values which may exist in different forms, as numbers or text on pieces of paper, as bits and bytes stored in electronic memory, or just as facts in a person's mind. Now, getting back on track, what is information? Data, when arranged in a convenient form for a specific purpose, is known as information. To put it in another way, information may be credit card numbers, debit card numbers, PIN numbers, Gmail passwords, Facebook passwords, router passwords, and bank account PIN numbers, and so on. An organized set of data is called information. Types of data. Data can be classified as publicly available data, confidential data, and restricted or private data. When data is publicly available to all, it is known as publicly available data. Example: a bank's balance sheets and insurance policy details, a government's tender notices and job posts held by authorities. When data is available only to the people involved in a process or an organization, in other words, it is restricted from unauthorized access, it is called confidential data. Example: a manufacturing company's market forecast data, test cases and standards, a bank's customer data consisting of the addresses and phone numbers, or a government's sensitive scientific and medical research data. When the data is super sensitive, in other words, leakage may lead to serious issues, it is known as restricted or private data. Example: a company's system designs and trade secrets, financial account PIN numbers, an email password, personal report, or medical reports of a person. Having seen the different types of data sets that are nothing but information, what is the need for information security? What if a credit card PIN becomes available for everyone? What if the number of missiles held by a nation is known worldwide? What if the system design and test case for a new product of a company is accessible by their competitor? And what if a tender quotation of all the applicants is accessible by all the other applicants? Do you think it is good to go about without securing this information? Of course not. Let us now get into information security. What is information security? Information security is the means of defending information or data stored either physically or electronically from being accessed by unauthorized personnel. During World War II, no one knew that the US had nuclear weapons. The then President of the USA, Franklin D. Roosevelt, approved of the Manhattan Project that paved the way for the creation of the Little Boy and Fat Man in 1939 itself. 6 years from then, after the demise of Roosevelt, when Harry S. Truman took over as president in 1945, he approved the dropping of the bombs in the Japanese cities. If the Japanese or the rest of the world had known about this earlier, they would have started developing their own nuclear weapons. The information was kept secret, but now over time, this information is available to all. Information gets dissipated over time. It is all about how it is being guarded at the moment. When the information is not secured enough, it becomes available to everyone. This weakness or gap in the system, which may allow an intruder to gain access to the information system, is known as vulnerability. When an intruder is able to use this vulnerability to arrive at sensitive data in the system, it is termed as an exploit. It has always been a tug-of-war between the terms vulnerability and threat. What is a threat, and how does it differ from vulnerability? Threat is a factor that can cause harm to a system, and the system has no control over it. But a vulnerability is a flaw in the system itself, which can definitely be treated. When explained like this, what are the possible threats? Threats can be classified broadly into two types: environmental threats and man-made threats. Environmental threats. Environmental threats can be caused due to environmental conditions or natural disasters. In times of extreme temperatures, humidity, power failures, heavy downpour causing floods, etc., the environmental conditions pose a great threat to the information system in one way or the other. Apart from this, natural disasters like earthquakes, floods, tornadoes, or landslides pose a threat to an information system. Man-made threats. Human errors and weaknesses make up most of the man-made threats. An employee is the greatest asset as well as the most dangerous possible threat to an organization. The first category of man-made threats are caused by the employees. This is also known as an insider threat. This may be unintentional as well as intentional. An employee may unknowingly leave his PC unlocked while going for a break, which would pave the way for another disgruntled employee of the same organization to gain access to the system and steal data from the system. The former is an unintentional threat, while the latter falls under intentional threat. The second category of man-made threats are caused intentionally by people outside the organization, also called external human threats. A member outside the organization attacking the information system with a malicious intent is called a hacker. Intentional threats are caused by individuals with motivations that can be categorized as political, economic, and socio-cultural. Political motivations are aimed at destroying or taking control of the target system, posting irrelevant and controversial political statements. The people carrying out such activities are called hacktivists. Example: cyberterrorism. Economic motivations are aimed at earning money by stealing intellectual data and selling it to the organization's competitors, also called cyber espionage. Installing ransomware like CryptoLocker and encrypting the data on a target's machine and blackmailing the target to pay a ransom in order to get the decryption key. Personal motivations are aimed at satisfying the self out of a sense of curiosity or a desire to get publicity by causing psychological damage to the target via social networking sites. This is also called cyberstalking. Types of hackers. A hacker intentionally exploiting a vulnerability in a system with authorization but without a malicious intent is known as a white hat hacker. These are actual security guys deployed as security admins. A hacker who intentionally attacks a system with a malicious intent is called a black hat hacker or a cracker. Apart from these two types of hackers, there are grey hat hackers who exhibit the traits from both the white and black hats. For example, if a white hat hacker found a vulnerability in a system and exploited it with authorization, but revealed it publicly instead of reporting it to the organization who had authorized him, he would be exhibiting a trait of a black hat hacker, so then he would be called a grey hat hacker. When an amateur hacker breaks into systems using pre-packaged automated scripts, tools and software written by real hackers, he is called a script kiddie. An organization, in order to ensure the security of its information, conducts a security audit that involves calculating the risk factors. What is a risk? Risk is nothing but the possibility of losing a valuable asset. To identify the loopholes or danger in an information security asset, risk assessment involves classifying the risks into two categories, namely, inherent risks and residual risks. Inherent risk. This is the risk that is faced when no controls or other mitigating factors are in place to guard the information. For example, in an organization, the lack of physical security measures such as CCTV, door access control mechanisms, etc. poses a higher risk of vital information theft. Residual risk. The risk that remains after the implementation of all control measures. For example, an organization can control the physical access to its premises either by having a security guard or by using electronic access control. When the organization seems to have nothing to be guarded physically, there is no need for it to protect its premises with either of the securing methodologies. This is where the organization conducts a cost-benefit analysis of its assets against its safety measures. Irrespective of the results of the cost-benefit analysis, there are certain standards and compliances an organization is supposed to follow. These include ISO, International Organization for Standardization, 27001 and 27002. ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure. COBIT, Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. PCI SSC, Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council. And PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. Having seen what information security is and how information security is ensured by following standard practices, it's time to get to know how the attackers are able to get into the system. The process of exploiting a vulnerability in an information system to gain unauthorized access of data is called hacking. Hacking involves 3 phases: information gathering, gaining access, and anti-forensics. Information gathering. This is the phase where a hacker tries to collect as much information as possible about the target. Gaining access. Using the information collected, the attacker designs a blueprint of the target and executes attacks against them to gain access to the system. Anti-forensics. The final phase is to erase the tracks that would eventually lead a forensic investigation back to the hacker who executed the attack on the target. Course map. This course on information security is aimed at imparting the end users with the knowledge, starting right from the basics of information systems, the security measures being implemented, and the ways and means they get disrupted by hackers. The course map starts with imparting knowledge on how hackers gather information about a target, information gathering. An information system is comprised of individual systems, which, when connected, become a network, and when they start rendering services, they are known as a web. Even though information gathering and system-based cracking seem to be a good place to start, it really all starts with executing malicious software on the target system, or malware, and it would be unjust if it was not dealt with as the first step. Revising the flow, the course map starts with malware, followed by information gathering and the rest. This module covers ways in which a system can be attacked to gain information, system-based cracking, while this one deals with attacks pertaining to wired and wireless infrastructure of a group of systems known as network-based cracking. Following this is the web-based cracking module. By now, you would have noticed that all the topics are covered from a hacker's point of view, and you will be wondering why this is not dealt with from a security officer's point of view. To be the best policeman, one should think about crime from a thief's perspective. In the same way, in order to be a good security specialist, one must think from a hacker's perspective. This module, Vulnerability Assessment and Penetration Testing, deals with the prospects of evaluating an information system and its security state from a hacker's perspective. A question keeps nagging even now. What will the defending mechanism be then? Since the course is designed to cover topics from a hacker's perspective, a clear idea of how the hacker works is imparted. Defining a single defending mechanism will do no good. For example, to arrive at the number 9, one person multiplies 3 by 3, while another may add 5 to 4, and a third may simply start counting numbers from 1 in ascending order to arrive at 9. In the very same way, a single fix will, over time, be easily exploited by hackers, and it is left to the audience to come up with their own defense mechanisms. Having finished with the introduction for information security, let us dive deep into ethical cracking.